way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
We have reached episode 90 of our podcast. Episode 90 episodes, guys. Well, I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker, CJ Medeiros. You're listening to the Fumblerooski podcast. Guys, feels like it was just yesterday when we started this thing, and we're already 90 episodes in. It's just incredible. Remember, Tuck, that first episode that we did with the other guy who's out tonight?
The other guy. Oh man, it's almost been 2 years. It's been a long time.
December 9th this year. That'll be our 2-year mark. And it really feels like yesterday when we started this. But anyways, enough of that. Guys, we are moving on to my personal favorite part of these player rankings, which is the cornerbacks. Now, it's not an offensive position, which is also fun to rank, but I also love corners. They're a big part of the game. They're important. All the best ones are such household names. And this is going to be a great one. So we're going to be ranking the top 5 corners in this episode. So without further ado, why don't we start? So CJ, you want to kick us off with your number 5 corner in the NFL?
No. Wait, are you sure you don't mean a corner in the NHL? No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
no.
Also, this is going into the 2022 NFL season, so it's not based off last year. It's going into this year, just to be clear. But CJ, kick us off.
NFL corner as opposed to what? No, I'm joking. All right, so kicking us off at my personal number 5 is representing the New Orleans Saints, Marshon Lattimore. Yeah. Now, I'm a big Lattimore guy, and he's not as big of a ball hawk as you would expect, but there's 2 things I love about him. One, he's not afraid to get dirty and tackle someone. He's not afraid to lay someone out, and he's a leader. He's one of the leaders on that defense aside from Cameron Jordan, and you could tell he's a great hold on that defensive backfield and can take most anyone. And we see that, he plays in my opinion, at least for receivers, a scary division because, you got guys like, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. The Falcons used to have Julio Jones, and, used to when he was good, but that doesn't matter. But long story short, I just respect the heck out of this guy, and he's not one of the bigger names, but still, he's top 5 year in and year out.
Yeah, I respect that.
It's an interesting pick for top 5.
He's top 5. I think he is top 5. I want to make this known before I use mine. This wasn't a harder list to make than expected because there's a lot of quality talent. And for starters, I did not put J.C. Jackson on my list. I thought this guy was going to be
there. You go.
Adam approves.
It hurts because
I already like your list. No disrespect to JC, but
yeah, it's no disrespect. When I looked at him, I was like, he has the numbers, he has the stats, but then when you look at the other guys, yeah, it's a very tough list. And as much as I hate to admit it, Adam's right. When JC Jackson went up against Stephon Diggs, it did not look good. Did not look pretty at all.
Well, I have Jackson in my top 5 now. I feel bad.
I don't feel bad. It's a tough list. So
yeah, it is. There's a lot of guys that could be in the top 5. It is what it is.
So I started off my top 5 with Xavier Howard. Xavier Howard, cornerback out of Miami. He's what I like to see in a press man corner, especially since what he did to my Baltimore Ravens. I don't want to talk about that. But anyway, he's a solid corner. The year before last, he had 10 picks, which is impressive, and didn't look as bad in coverage as Trayvon Diggs did. But yeah, I believe he had a solid season, maybe not as good as his last season, but a commendable season all around. I didn't just think that he's playing on the Miami Dolphins, and that's why he goes under the radar a little bit. But when you look at his numbers and you look at the players he's going against and who he has to go against, I believe he's a solid cornerback to have on your team.
That's an interesting pick, putting him. And I thought you're going to be surprised for where I have him, or at least I thought you would. But here's my number 5. And remember, before we all give the rest of our list, remember this is going into the 2022 season, not based off what happened last year. Although that does have an influence, but my number 5, and I'm very high on this guy, it's Denzel Ward. I think Denzel Ward has such underrated coverage statistics. He just does not allow yardage at all. Now he does tend to gamble a lot. That's one of the few weaknesses in his game, but he has lots of passes defended. And this is a guy who's just continuing to play, and he's playing up to that contract. Maybe he might be a little overpaid, but he's definitely good enough for him to be my number 5 corner going into next year. I really like Denzel Ward.
I really need to see your list now, because if you have Denzel Ward number 5, there's 4 corners I think I have ahead of him that aren't on your. One of them might not be on your list, and it better be. All right.
I think I know exactly who you're referring to, who you fear is not on my list, and you'll find out.
Is it a purple clad fellow by any chance?
We'll get to that. We will get to that. Because if he's not on there, we're going to have words. But number 4, CJ.
Number 4 is Adam's favorite corner in the NFL for me, J.C. Jackson. Now, I won't lie to you. Even though I put him in the top 5, part of me feels that he's a little bit overrated. There are a lot of pundits that are putting him in the top 3, which is feasible, but overall, I just don't see. Now, he's, your highlight reel type of player. He's always there to make the big pick, but he's not really as much of a tackler as I'd like, but his big playability lands him in the top 5 alone. And the only reason, unlike the pundits, I don't have him top 3 is solely because he's on a new team. And especially for corners, the learning curve is brutal. Something that would remind you of like Stephon Gilmore was not overly great his first year in New England, but every year since, he was deadly. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, there's always a learning curve for these corners, but JC, just on talent alone, got to be top 5. Adam disagrees, but that's the beauty of the show, isn't it, kids?
Look, all I'm saying is I just don't think he's as good as everybody thinks he is. It doesn't mean I think he's not good. He's a very good corner. I just think if he's a number 1, he's like on the lower end. That's what I'll say. And this year was a great year for him. He was a high-end number 1 this year. But
and last year.
But like it feels like I'm Max Kellerman talking about his cliff theory, just putting all these different variables. Even though I don't know, I think I'm pretty justified in my take. But Talk, what's your 4,
buddy?
Hey CJ, we're getting him there. Just a couple of weeks ago, he said he was only a number 2. He said he can be a number 1.
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
He's softening.
I didn't think he was a number 2 a few weeks ago. I thought he was a number 2 like maybe at the beginning of last season. And then I thought, okay, he's a number 1, but he's like a low end. I've always liked J.C. Jackson, but I've liked him as a number 2.
Okay, yeah, it's whatever.
I thought he was a great compliment. He was a great sidekick to Stephon Gilmore during his prime days. That's what I'll say.
I wouldn't say sidekick. He was better. He did good without him.
Yeah, he did.
All right, my number 4 was oddly enough Marshawn Lattimore. I believe in the secondary that will admittedly take a decrease with the loss of Marcus Williams. Hey, welcome to Baltimore, Marcus Williams. But Marshawn Lattimore is without doubt a top 5 cornerback in this league. He can play zone. He can play man. He can play press man. He can bail. He can play whatever you need him to do. And when he was coming out, you had worries about his injury history, but he's been, knock on wood, able to stay healthy throughout his years in New Orleans. So that's been a plus. Congratulations on that. I believe he's been a major contributor to turning around that secondary. And I believe he's worth the contract they gave him, I want to say either last year or the year before. And he's been proving it ever since. I believe he is a true shutdown number 1 corner, and he'll continue to prove that throughout the years.
All right. So my number 4 guy is Xavier Howard. So Xavier Howard is a corner who I once regarded as one of the top 2-3 corners in the league. And the reason why I don't have him number one or in that range anymore is because of his coverage. It hasn't been as good as it was earlier on in his career. And I can show you right here in this past season, 2021, 614 yards, which isn't terrible, but it's not that good either for a corner who's supposed to be the best in the game. And then his all-pro year in 2020, 719 yards allowed. 719. Look, if you are, let's say, a number 2 corner or a number 3, those are pretty good numbers. But if you're regarded as like the best, like an all-pro corner, those aren't good enough statistics. And I used to really like Xavier Howard, but I'm starting to think his coverage stats are getting worse by the season, and I still regard him as one of the top 5 in the league, but he's starting to slip is what I see. But
Fair. Okay.
He's still a good corner. Like I say, he's still a good corner. A lot of 16 passes defended. But CJ, what is your number 3?
Oh.
Well, Adam, my number 3 corner from the Green Bay Packers, Jair Alexander. Now, you hear some people saying, why is he not 2? Well, look, I'm not going to deny his abilities. Jair Alexander is a mighty fine corner, and he just doesn't allow yards. He's not the ball hawk that you'd like him to be, but quarterbacks are afraid to throw at him because he jams routes, he can get to the ball, but the only reason I don't have him, is top 2 solely because he got hurt last year. And especially like injuries for corners can be a death sentence in the right area, but I don't think that's the case. He's certainly going to be top 3 next year. I mean, just based on talent alone. But I'm kind of eager to see how he comes back, especially from that injury.
That's a good pick. I like Jair Alexander.
Coincidentally, my number 3 pick was Marlon Humphrey.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. I don't need to explain why he's number 3, but I shouldn't have to, but I will. He can play slot, he can play outside, he can play press, he can play zone. He can travel with your number 1. Ask Odell Beckham what it feels like to be covered by Marlon Humphrey. He can play whatever system you want him to play, and just as an added bonus, he plays in one of the most diverse systems you can, the Baltimore Ravens. The only problem is he wasn't completely healthy last year. He did miss games, which is unfortunate. He had a a season-ending shoulder injury, which held him out for the rest of the season. But for the most part, he was still the regular shutdown corner he used to be, except that he didn't have Marcus Peters there to help him out. But I believe this year he'll be healthy and a better mindset to help get the Ravens to where they need to be defensively. And when he goes off the field, you saw the impact that it had. That's why he's my number 3 corner.
All right. So my number 3 corner, and it is a crime that this guy did not make a Pro Bowl, AJ Terrell. So AJ Terrell, 16 passes defended and just 414 yards allowed in coverage across 16 games played this season. That is incredible. And the fact that this guy, we talked about Deion Jones last week as a underrated linebacker in this league on the Falcons. And AJ Terrell's in that same spot. He's one of the best corners in the league now. His rookie season was really rocky, but his sophomore season this past year was incredible. And this is a kid he's young and he's only going to get better from here. And this is going into the 2022 season. So AJ Terrell he's a slam dunk pick for me to be number 3.
That's an interesting choice there, Adam. I'm starting to see there's only like 2 more selections we have left, and I've noticed that there's 3 cornerbacks that could be selected, and yet,
Hey, like you said, there's a lot of quality corners over there, and some of them are going to miss out. Just saying.
Yeah. Some of them are top 5. The others are Marlon Humphrey, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But
And the other is Marlon Humphrey and J.C. Jackson. But
we ready to start our number 2?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's see it, CJ.
All right. Ironically, my number 2 was AJ Terrell from the Falcons. And Adam, point blank, you took the words right out of my mouth. But he's starting really to become a leader on that Falcons defense. You know how much I love leadership, in especially on defense. And this guy, 81 combined tackles last year, which is insane for a corner. He doles out hits, he breaks up routes, and he got 3 picks last year. But like Adam said, like what was it, like 14, something like that, yards allowed, something like that?
414 in 16 games.
Yeah, and that
so
division
just
with
do
those
the math
receivers,
right there.
is unheard of. Literally allowing less than like 100 yards a game, obviously, but good God, that guy is insane. I mean, and little Adam, like I said, you took the words right out of my mouth. Really not a lot I can add, but I am just excited to see how he jumps up in, his, what is it, 3rd year now he's going into?
Yes, he's going into his 3rd season. His rookie year was kind of just meh. He allowed nearly 1,000 yards in coverage, but this season was actually this was an incredible year for him. But you have anything more to add before Tuck gives his number 2?
Yeah, I don't wait. I mean, how many yards do you allow a game? Because it can't have been more than 50. This guy, there's just no passing on this guy,
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
it was just
a
incredible.
Low number. All right,
and we had to witness Mac Jones get picked off by AJ Terrell. Remember that?
Yeah, but I don't remember that. But was that even his fault? Because I could have sworn was a bobbled ball or I could have sworn he watched that and it hit. I thought it hit someone and then it bounced to him, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think he just straight up threw it to him.
I don't remember.
Right? We could pull it up, but
yeah, I could. But I'm just saying honestly, that happened a lot last year with Mac. He would hit guys in the numbers and it would bounce to someone else. But that's where half his picks came from. But that's neither here nor there. Tucker?
I mean, that's what happens when you don't draft quality receivers. That can happen on occasion. But anyway.
Like Hollywood Brown?
That's okay. Our undrafted wide receiver, Jacoby Myers, is going to dominate all.
Yeah.
Except the end zone. That part he doesn't get.
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns in 3 seasons. That's yikes. All right, Tuck.
You guys already have a 1st-round draft pick that could do that, but unfortunately, you guys think he's a bust.
N'Keal Harry?
Oh, you mean the greatest threat to world peace, N'Keal Harry?
Okay.
All right, we're getting off topic. Tuck, give us your number 2.
My number 2 was Jair Alexander. Unfortunately for him, he was coming off injury, so I can't really back up the numbers. But when last healthy, this guy was a quality shutdown corner. Just ask anybody he lined up against. Tom Brady threw 2 interceptions in the NFC Championship game against this cornerback. Yep. So we should know how quality he is if Tom Brady is struggling to complete passes against him. When last time he was healthy, he was a 1st-team All-Pro caliber corner and showed everybody the reason why he was that type of corner. I believe he will have a bounce-back season, and he will maintain that level of play due to part of his brand-new contract that he just got, including $31 million guaranteed. I think $31 million in the 1st year. So congratulations to him, and hopefully he can maintain that play at a high level.
All right, so I did have Jair Alexander as my number 2 as well. The only thing I want to add on to that is once he came back, he played as good, just as good as he did last year. In 4 games, 131 yards allowed in coverage, which is if you do the math, that's 32 yards a game. And then once they got to the playoffs, while they didn't win the game, the Green Bay Packers defense put on a clinic, and he shut down who was one of the top wide receivers in the league. I'm forgetting his name, but
Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, he sometimes I blank on players. There's a lot. We have a whole league to memorize, and sometimes I blank. But Deebo Samuel completely shut him down. And the only touchdown the 49ers scored was on special teams. So, I mean, that just tells you how much of an impact Jair Alexander can really make on that secondary, which is already deep with Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas. Great core that they have over there. And it starts with Jair Alexander. I know he got hurt, but once he came back, he was his old self. And now he has a whole off season to build on that. He's going to be great this year. So I have a feeling who we all have as our number one.
Yeah.
Do we all have the same number one?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Want to say it on three? On three?
Sure.
1, 2, 3. Jalen
Ramsey.
Yeah. All right. Good. We're all on the same page.
All right. Thank goodness.
He just deserves number one. He does.
Absolutely.
He's been incredible the past 2 years. I wasn't too kind to him when we were doing our player rankings last year. And I thought he had a great season the year before, but I thought he was going to not be quite as good. And he proved me wrong. He made another All-Pro, and he deserves, until he proves otherwise, then he is the best corner in the game. And I don't know what else you guys have to add to it, but he's incredible.
Yeah, typical size corner, big, long, fast, can run, can stay with anybody. DK Metcalf struggles with him. Deebo Samuel struggles with him. Any wide receiver in the league struggles with him specifically because of his size and his ability to run. And he can play zone and he can play man. And he's a willing tackler, which not many corners are willing to do on occasion. That's what makes him number one.
Yeah, I'm right there with Tucker. I mean, look at Jalen Ramsey. Well, one thing that you didn't mention I love about him is just his tenacity. He doesn't play off. He plays man. He presses. He will get right up in your grill, and he'll chirp at you every time you mess up. And you know what a true mark of a great corner is? In this social media age, anytime he rarely gives up a touchdown or like rarely makes a bad play, you see it all over, you know? Because people are just grasping at straws in the media, especially to try to make him look bad. So, you know? But yeah, like when it's so rare that he screws up that you always hear about it whenever he does. And that is truly something that not a lot of people talk about. But like I said, he's like a really vibrant, tenacious, feisty corner. And man, that guy, I thank God I'm not a receiver because I would hate going up against him.
Look, it's that I do love when corners do have that attitude, like that sort of attitude to them, that edge. But when it comes to it, it's good and bad because like you said, basically it puts a target on their backs. And whenever they screw up, it's a lot worse than if you weren't to open up your mouth and speak. And I also think he does tend to let his emotions get the best of him sometimes, and it hasn't screwed him over yet. But it's one of those things where if you're playing with way too much emotion, it's going. I mean, just talk to Odell Beckham Jr. It could really, really take a toll on you on the field, and I just think that's the only reason. That's the only knock that I would have on him is that he plays with too much of an edge sometimes. And really the only reason that I didn't have Jair Alexander over him is because Alexander was hurt all last year. So Ramsey gets the benefit of the doubt, but he's still top two. This is just, if we're finding any sort of downside to his game, that's what I would have.
We're going to need to talk about your list, Adam, because I noticed a certain player wasn't on that list, but you had other players over him that are just flat out not better than him.
Wait,
look,
who?
I did want to address Marlon Humphrey not making.
That's what I meant. Humphrey.
What if I had Marlon Humphrey number one? If I said on 3 and then I said Marlon Humphrey?
I'd be flattered, but I'd say you're wrong.
Look, I was going to have Marlon Humphrey on our list. If he didn't get hurt, he would be in my top 5. He would be over Denzel Ward, probably at number 5. Or number 4, because I think without this injury, Marlon Humphrey was better than Xavier Howard this year. But he tore his ACL, and he has to come back from that.
He didn't tear his ACL. He tore his shoulder.
Excuse me. Yeah, he tore his shoulder.
That tore his ACL.
Still, he's coming back from an injury, and it's going to take some time to recover from that, and it might take some time for him to get back in the swing of things.
If you can say that about Marlon, why can't you say the same about Jair?
Because Jair came back and he played at a high level.
But
he has the whole.
Still played more games than him.
What's that?
Marlon still played more games than him.
Yeah, before he got hurt for the rest of the season.
So I could still make the case next year coming up, he'd still play at a high level. Even still, I'd have him over Xavier Howard in Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah, but look, we know Jair Alexander is healthy now. That's my point. Like I really like Marlon Humphrey, but he has something to prove coming back from that injury.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Now he's participating in minicamp.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes in the season.
That's good. That's baby steps. It's steps forward. But from recovering from that injury, he was using all that time during the offseason that he could have been used if he didn't get hurt to get better and build on his career. Instead, he was just coming back from the injury and recovering from that. So that's a big blow, and he might find his old form at some point in the season, but it won't be in the beginning of the year. And to be able to play at a high level for the whole year, that's a big thing for me.
I don't want to hear none of that. I don't. If you're telling me you have to play at a high level the entire year, but Jair Alexander's on that list, okay.
All right. Look, we got to move on.
We're just going to disagree.
Yeah. So our fan box, we're going to get to that, and we're going to find out who you guys think are some of the more underappreciated corners in the NFL. We've been talking about this for every other position, and I kind of want to use that segment as sort of a best of the rest. We want to hear your picks on that. So we'll get to that next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright, CJ Medeiros, Justin Tucker, and we are on to our fan box. So what that is we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. And we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. So the question of the week was, who is the most underrated cornerback in the NFL? So we kind of geared this more towards next season. So I wanted to hear what you guys had to say. And our first response was Stephon Gilmore, and that was Diego Huertas. So Stephon Gilmore. And he's become very underrated, mainly because of his age and his recent injury history, which is continuing to pile up as he ages, which is never a good sign when you're young, when you're old. But despite that, when he's been on the field, now he may not be where he was when he was an All-Pro, and certainly not Defensive Player of the Year, but as let's say talking about just being a number one corner, a functional Pro Bowl level corner, he has been that and then some.
Yeah.
I mean, at the barest minimum, he's probably still in the top 10, maybe like around 10 or 9.
Oh,
Maybe just outside, I don't know, but still, either way, he's still good, and he can still give the best of them trouble.
Look, I had him as last year, going into last year, I had him as my number 2 corner. And I had him as my number 2 because I thought he has one more all-pro caliber season left in him. And it turns out he couldn't even start the season. And he couldn't play for the first half of the season. But once he got back, he played fairly well. Now, do I still think that he has an all-pro level season? It's looking less and less likely as time goes on. However, I still think he can play at a high level, and he has played very well in the time that he's played in the past couple seasons. He's been hurt, but he's actually still been playing very well. And he was nursing a calf injury the season in 2020 while he was still playing very well. So that was very encouraging for me. Turns out it didn't mean anything because he started. What was it? The first 8 weeks he was on IR, so didn't work out. But Jack Hartman said the Browns have dogs. So he said DAWGS in all caps with Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome. So I already covered Denzel Ward in my top 5, and I do like him as a top 5 corner going into this season. Greg Newsome is one that doesn't get talked about enough. And we talk a lot about Eric Stokes. I know I do, as that rookie corner last year who was just incredible. But Greg Newsome was really good too.
He was solid for the Browns. I agree.
Yeah, he's definitely a good. Well, it depends on if he's like second or third, depending on where you put Greedy Williams. But at the same time, like, didn't really have any picks last year. 37 tackles. Like, come on, you gotta get that up. I feel like his potential is certainly there.
Certainly. Now, Eric Stokes, from Patrick Williver, he picked Eric Stokes. This is a corner that I really like, and I've talked about him a lot. And he's a guy who was taken in the first round and really stepped up in the absence of Jair Alexander last year, along with Rasul Douglas in that secondary. And this is a corner that I just really like. He does tend to gamble every now and then. He gets burned sometimes, but I think he's primed to step up and have another good season and maybe take a step forward in his sophomore season.
Yeah, Adam, I absolutely agree. But the biggest factor here is that Jair Alexander is going to come back, and he doesn't have to be the guy. He can just sit back, play corner 2, and maybe try to learn from Jair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And another thing is, I know the Packers have received a lot, and I mean a lot, of blowback for not drafting a receiver in the first round. They've been focusing on defense for the past few years, outside of 2019, 2020. I believe it was 2020 when they took a quarterback. And it doesn't look like he's going to pan out. I could be wrong. But say what you want about how they've been drafting only defense, and they've been focusing free agency on there as well. It's reflected on the field. That defense looks like it's going to be it's been very good the past few years, and it looks like it's going to be the strength of the team this year. So it's been pretty good. That is one part that I do respect about Green Bay. They, back in the earlier 2010s, they had an abysmal defense, and they've been focusing on it. It's been getting better and better by the year. Only problem is their offense is getting worse and worse by the year. So that's something that they'll have to focus on in improving, which they did not do. They took Christian Watson, but remains to be seen whether he'll pan out. But B Prince, I'm not sure what his actual name is. It says B Prince. like B and then Princic. So he said Greg Newsome again. So do we have anything to add to what we mentioned about him last with when Jack mentioned it?
No.
No, not really.
Solid player. Can't wait to see him play again.
Yeah, and I'm
For
looking
the
for
Ravens
his
now.
so Ben Prinsick, I think that's what it is. I think he's a new follower, but this is the first time he's responding to the fan box. Usually we have a lot of regulars, but so yeah, that is a good, and another one who doesn't really get mentioned a lot, who's more of a defensive back. He gets used everywhere. And he hasn't been great, but Greedy Williams. What do you guys think of him?
Why are we just mentioning Browns players?
Well, we're talking about players
Yeah.
in that secondary because when everyone talks about that Browns defense, the only names you hear is Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jadeveon
Greedy
Clowney.
Williams is
Johnson.
all right. I mean, I
But
won't
if
lie.
he's your
I had
number
some pretty
3?
high expectations for him coming out, but like, not really. I'm not
Yeah.
really impressed with what I've seen, to be brutally honest.
So far, yeah, it's kind of, and we'll see.
Yeah, see, I had high expectations for him as well, but if he's your number 3 corner right now, that's pretty solid. I don't mind
Yeah.
that. Now, on to our next response was Grayson Mortimer, who said Jair.
That's
So-
not underrated.
What? He's not underrated.
All of us had, so all of us had him top 3. I had him top 2, and so did Tuck. I think the only way he could be underrated is just because he got hurt last year. But I mean, I had him as my number 1 corner during last summer's player rankings. So I guess that's the only way that there were a couple responses, especially last week's fan box, where Darius Leonard was mentioned as an underrated corner. And there was also somebody said Micah Hyde too. And of course, those are great corners, good picks for corners. Those are good linebackers, good picks, but just not exactly underrated, you know?
Yeah.
So this is going to be a tough pronunciation, but CJ,
Can I pronounce it? Because I know who it is.
Please do.
Obviously. From the Detroit Lions, Amani Aruwariye.
All right.
Yeah.
Elaborate on your pick.
Now, a lot of people might not know who he is because he is on the Lions, which is a very sad team. But consider this, if you will. Last season, as a corner, 57 tackles, 44 solo, 11 passes deflected, and 6 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his coverage, he's entering his 4th year. His coverage stats are average, but that's definitely something he can iron out as he settles into Dan Campbell's defensive scheme. And he's solely, and look, when you look at his numbers, there's a very valid argument to be made that he's only underrated solely because he's on the Lions. And if he were on a big market team, like the 49ers or the Patriots or the Cowboys, yeah, everybody would know who he was.
Don't put him on the Cowboys.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just naming big market teams.
Oh, okay.
And if he was on a big market team, I have no doubt in my mind he'd be a household name. A difficult household name to pronounce, but a household name nonetheless.
Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo is pretty tough to pronounce, but after hearing it a million times, now people have it down.
Yeah.
But how do you know who he is? Because I didn't know who he is either.
I've been aware of him.
Oh, I have a friend that told me about him. Like, a friend like from Dean that, was really into him. And he said, hey, he asked me funny questions all the time. He said, are you a big Amani Aruwariye guy? And I'm like, who's that? And then he showed me. I said, oh, I am now. That guy's a beast.
Look, he is underrated, I guess, if he's a number 2 or 3 corner. In 14 games, 671 yards allowed in pass coverage last season.
1,600.
Nearly 900 yards the season prior.
Yeah, the season prior. I'm talking about going into this season. So he literally shaved off. What was it? Like shaved off roughly 300 yards, and then
about
so you,
like
like
about
281.
about 170. About 170.
Wait, what? I thought you said like 619 and 900.
671.
Oh, so I thought in my head 619. I'm sorry, but either way,
I'll put it on the
still
calculator
good.
right now.
No,
844.
look, I'm sorry. In my head, I heard 619. I don't know why.
71 equals 173. So he
Yeah,
shaved
still,
off
I mean,
173.
I look at the NFC North.
He's
Look at who
still
he has.
shaving off
Look at
yards.
who we had to go up against. Guys like Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and who could forget Devontae Adams and Jay Jettas and Adam Thielen. That's not an easy division to be a corner. And the fact he puts up those numbers, and keep in mind, 671 is not even that bad. And when you factor in that division, come on, you got to give him his respect.
Yeah, 11 passes defended wasn't bad, and 7 in 2020 was solid. I get when you factor the division. Yeah, sure, he is underrated because nobody knows who he is. I'm just nitpicking, I guess. Just nitpicking, looking around at his statistics.
I believe you're giving him what you call the J.C. Jackson treatment.
Okay, that's a little far. that's a little tough. But Cash Jurasin, and I messed this one up when I was responding to the fan boxes, said Troy Hill. So I've a lot of stuff happened this offseason, and I have come to my attention that Troy Hill was traded back to the Browns. Excuse me, to the Rams.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Why are they playing hot potato with him?
So Troy Hill, that is big for them because they just lost their previous number 2 corner. And now they get one to replace him. And he may not be the guy who they had before him. However, this is a good one for them because that was a big hole for them. A number 2 corner past Jalen Ramsey because they don't really have much depth at the position. But that was Cash Jurasin who said Troy Hill.
Yeah, that's certainly a really good observation there. With the Rams, and I mean, I definitely think that once again on his old team, they just won Super Bowl. He's going to be eager to like try to help him go back to back, and he'd be a good compliment to Ramsey, I would expect.
Yeah, he'll be solid. Stephen Parker said Chidobe Awuzie on the Bengals.
Cincinnati. He played for the Cincinnati Bengals, was the number 1 to Eli Apple's horrendous number 2.
Yeah.
He played good. It's just that everybody kept targeting Eli Apple and really didn't make much of a difference.
Yeah. This was probably Awuzie's best season last year,
Yeah.
It took, he was on that Bengals Super Bowl appearing defense, and but it's just I don't think he's like a solid. I don't think he's like the number 1 though. That's just me.
Now they have Dax Hill.
Exactly.
You're assuming he'll be the corner. You're assuming that.
It should be. Dax Hill's a beast at Michigan. We can put him anywhere.
If you can put him anywhere, you need to put him at outside corner. So you could put Eli somewhere where he can't mess things up.
What about the bench?
They drafted him as a safety, not as a
also delete his Twitter account so that
he's not distracted.
Delete his Twitter.
He can't delete his Twitter. He would have to openly delete it. I'm not sure.
Delete it.
Twitter, get on that. Elon Musk, make it so.
Hey, they did it to the former president. Why not do it to the next best threat to world peace?
Oh, absolutely. Eli Apple.
And Eli Apple.
The next dictator, supreme dictator of Cincinnati, Eli Apple.
Hey, with the way he tweets, you would think that.
Yeah.
All right, I believe this is his name's Dalton Christensen. We had a lot of new fan box responses. Levi Wallace.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. And the Steelers. What was the contract? Pittsburgh game like 2 years, $8 million, something like that.
2 years, $8 million. So that's
a bargain. No, that's not a bargain. That's highway robbery. That guy. He's physical. He picks off the ball. He's got a good football IQ. But being overshadowed by Tre'Davious White in Buffalo that'll happen.
Yeah.
But this, let me tell you, once his contract's up in Pittsburgh, he's probably gonna get a fat payday because this guy is a monster, just in the way he plays.
Mm-hmm.
And let me also say, just reading these names and seeing who their number two makes me feel bad that I left them out of the top 5. Like Tre'Davious White made none of our top 5s. He did tear his ACL.
It's just how good our
there's a lot of good corners,
Exactly. Darius Slay had a very good season this year.
Yeah.
Didn't make the top 5. If we had a top 10, all of these names would be here.
Yeah, but top 10 would take forever.
Also, you guys ready for this next one?
Am I really?
Nick Normand
Oh,
said, gotta be JC Jackson.
Adam, you want to take this away?
He's top 5.
Well,
he is top 5. Stephon Diggs loves what you said. I'll say that much.
I mean, I think he's top 5, not top 3. Maybe
He
number
just
4 or
missed out on
5.
my list.
I mean, from a highlight reel standpoint alone, but I don't know. He's not a big tackler.
Corner.
He is, but he's not, like I said, the biggest tackler. Or plus, like Stephon Diggs is literally his kryptonite. He is physically incapable of beating Stephon Diggs, but I mean, I wouldn't call him underrated though. Everybody and their mother has him at the bare minimum in the top 10. Hell, a lot of them have him top 3.
Listen. So in I look a lot at coverage stats because I think being able to cover and limit the amount of yards is important. So his lowest number was 2018 when he allowed 256 yards, when he happened to only play 47% of the snaps. And then the next lowest was 2019. He played, so he allowed 316 yards, 68% of the snaps. Then it goes up. He played 84% of snaps in 2020, and then he allows nearly 700 yards. In fact, you can give him 700 yards because 691, about 9 yards off. So basically 700 yards. Then it goes up to 88% and 658. So, like I said, with Xavier Howard, if you mentioned him as, like, let's say a number 2, a low end number 1, these would be great numbers. These would be pretty good. But this is one of the best corners. At least he's supposed to be regarded as one of the best corners in the entire league. And if he is, then you don't allow that many yards, especially once your snap percentage goes up and then your yards go way up. Now, I understand it's bound to happen a little bit because you're playing more snaps. That means higher chance of failure on one of those plays. However, you just get I mentioned the coverage stats for a lot of the other corners who I have above him. And I mean, just come on. Look, I like JC Jackson. I really do. Just not at the price that the Chargers gave him. And he's still going to be a good corner for them. Just he's a little overpaid. That's all. All right. Ian Malern said Deontay Jackson with a E in it. Deontay Jackson.
Just Deontay Jackson.
Yeah, Deontay Jackson with the Panthers.
Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
He's an interesting man.
He's a good one. I like him.
Oh yeah, me too. I really wanted him when he was coming out of the draft.
He's a solid number 1. And they got another kid out of the first round this past season. JC Horn, who got hurt. So we'll see if he gets healthy and he's able to play. There's a lot of corners, and as we continue to mention these names, I'm forgetting about the NFL draft, this past NFL draft, and there's some good ones coming out of there. Derek Stingley Jr. and Ahmad Gardner, those guys are going to be good, and they could make our top 5 next summer. All right. So our final response was Derek Hool, who said Rasul Douglas had a breakout and a half and is still underrated. We talk a lot about Eric Stokes, not about Rasul Douglas.
I wouldn't say a breakout, though. I think he's a little underrated. I wouldn't say all the way underrated because everybody knows how good he was for the Packers when Jair Alexander went down. Heck, he even won them a game against the Cardinals. Everybody knows how good he is, but I remember when he was with the Eagles and he was doing that. So it's not really as much as underrated, just that people forgot about him, which therefore made him underrated.
So he was solid with them, but I'll tell you why it's different. And I'm pulling up the coverage stats again. In his 2 years in Philly, he allowed a combined 1,300 yards in 2 seasons.
Wait, what? 1,302?
So 700 and 600 around that.
About high 600s in both of them. And then in 1 year with Carolina, nearly 800. And then when he was with Green Bay, it dropped down to 350.
So you're telling me
this was a breakout and a half.
Same numbers around J.C. Jackson.
What's that?
You're telling me he was putting up the same type of numbers as J.C. Jackson.
He was putting up better numbers, actually. And, he did play 12 games as opposed to J.C. Jackson's, I think it was a full season.
In which season? Did he just play 12 games in both of them?
This is 2021 I'm talking about, where he did 351 yards.
I'm talking about in his 2017 and 18 seasons.
Yeah.
Did he play all 16 or did he just play 12 in each?
He played 16 he played 16 in 18 and 19, and he played 14 in 2020. And I'm looking at the snap percentages. So 48 so this was on this was bad. The percentage of snaps that he played were roughly 50%. So he was allowing these numbers while playing only 50% of the snaps.
Yeah,
so it could have been worse.
Playing better in 2017, he didn't have like a horrendous season in Philly, his rookie season. But as the years went on, it started to taper off. When he got to Green Bay, he played phenomenal. He had his best season there.
And there's no reason to believe that he can't do it again.
He can certainly do it again. And now he's going to be playing. He's going to be facing worse competition for his wide receiver assignments because Jair Alexander's back in the mix, and then Eric Stokes is still there. So he's going to be facing like the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3s. So it's only going to get better for him, and he's certainly underrated. I do like him.
Yeah.
All right. So that is it for our fan box responses. But do you guys have any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
Marlon is top 5.
I would like to counter by saying Marlon is in fact not top 5. Back to you, Adam.
You guys are ridiculous, but okay.
Thanks, CJ. And Marlon is not top 5.
Yes.
I would have put him top 5. I promise you, Tuck. I would have put him number 5 if he didn't get hurt at the end of the season.
Number 5 is crazy, but okay.
Maybe number 4. I think he would have had a better season than Xavier Howard.
Listen.
But all right, look. So we got to end the show, so that'll be it. So that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune in to us live Tuesdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.